Hello, my name is Steven, and this is my friend Darrell.
We are from SMAK Penabur, Bandung, and today we are going to explain to you of our research development of coconut fruit Mesocarp material filter for pollutant gas. And this research presentation was made to take part in the 2020 National Youth Research Competition organized by the Center for Young Scientists Indonesia. To begin with, SARS-CoV-2, which generally affects the respiratory system, is more prevalent in active and passive smokers. This is really worrying because the smoking habit of Indonesians is still relatively high, thus creating an unhealthy environment. This also contributes in polluting the environment and can also cause respiratory problems. The cloth masks that are generally used by the public are not effective in filtering dust and smoke, so a filter is still needed to gain better effectiveness. Cellulose fiber is one of those materials that can be used to form a series of fibers that can filter dust and smoke with the help of CMC adhesive, which is also a derivative of cellulose. So the base ingredient of this filter is cellulose, which is found abundant in coconut coirs. So the research methodology is differentiated into 4 different parts. First is the preparation of the coconut coir. Second is the method of experimentation. Third is the face mask filter printing. And the fourth is testing. So first of all, the preparation of the coconut coir. So it is done by cutting the coconut coir fiber into small pieces, and then it is rinsed with water and dried in the sun. This is done to ease the lignification process and to free the coconut coir fibers from other external materials. The next one is the method experimentation. So to determine a suitable method to create an effective mask filter, 8 types of experiments are done. So as you can see from the table, there are 8 experiments and they are done differently. So I'm going to explain to you of each process done. The first one is the lignification process. In this process, coconut coir is soaked in 20% of sodium hydroxide solution for 2 hours with a temperature of 80 degrees Celsius. This is done to increase the purity of the cellulose. And the next one is the bleaching of the α-cellulose. So the α-cellulose obtained from before are soaked into a 6% hydrogen peroxide solution for 3 hours at room temperature. This is done to further increase the purity of the cellulose. And last but not least is the addition of CMC and glycerin. So to dissolve the CMC, the CMC is dissolved in water. So the dried cellulose residue, which is obtained before, is mixed with the CMC solution and 10% of glycerin until it is well mixed. So in this process, the CMC functions as an α-cellulose adhesive, whereas the glycerin functions as a plasticizer to make the filter more elastic. The third one is face mask filter printing. So the printing is done by drying the finished cellulose and CMC solution until it is rigid and the excessive water is no longer present. And last but not least is the testing process. And there are 4 different tests done. First is a smoke filter test. This is done by directing the filter at the source of the smoke. In this case, coconut coir is burned for 10 minutes. Then it is measured how long it takes for the smoke detector to detect the smoke from its source. It's also done of a calculation of the initial weight and the final weight of the filter to determine how much smoke is filtered in the process. And the next one is the dust filter test. So in this test, the filter is aimed at the dust source, in this case, vehicle exhaust for 1 minute. Then the calculation of the initial weight and the final weight is also done to figure out how much dust is filtered in the process. And the next one is the water absorption test. So each filter is immersed in 100 milliliters of water for 1 hour. And then the water absorption rate is measured and calculated with the following formula below. And the last one is the elasticity test. The filter is given a 500 grams load, which is clamped left and right. After a few seconds, the final length of the filter is measured. The difference between the initial and final length of the filter is to determine its elasticity.
Coir has a very high cellulose content consisting of 26.6% α-cellulose, 27.7% hemicellulose, and 29.4% lignin. Cellulose molecules are entirely linear and have a strong tendency to form intra- and intermolecular bonds, which in large number can form strong fibers, are insoluble in water and insoluble in organic solvents. In making this mask filter, the cellulose in coconut coir must be purified first by going through a delignification process. separation of α-cellulose from wax layers, such as lignin and other impurities, is done so as not to block the interface bond between the fiber and polyester. By purifying the cellulose, the CMC polymer bonds to cellulose fiber will be strong because CMC is a polymer derived from cellulose. The separation of α-cellulose from lignin and other impurities can use natrium hydroxide. By purifying cellulose, the site of cellulose fibers becomes smaller and purer, so that the filter forms becomes tighter and the polymer bonds with the CMC becomes stronger. Thus, the final thickness in the delignification cellulose becomes thinner yet denser. In bleaching process, apart from bleaching the color of coconut coir cellulose fiber, the use of hydrogen peroxide can also function to help purify existing cellulose. The results show that the higher the concentration of hydrogen peroxide added could reduce the lignin level to a certain concentration. Conventionally, pulp bleaching or fiber purification process can use chlorine compound, including chlorine, hypochlorite, chlorate, and hydrogen peroxide. Dust has a size of 0.1 micrometer until 50 micrometer, while cigarette smoke has an average diameter of 0.01 micrometer until 1 micrometer. Therefore, it takes a pore size that is small enough to be able to filter out cigarette dust and smoke. From the result of the experiment conducted in Table 3, it can be seen that the dust particle can be filtered quite well with a filtered dust particle weight of 0.5 grams in experiment variable 6 because of the thick and dense structure. In terms of time, experiment 6 triggered the smoke detector alarm. Judging from the total filtered smoke and dust, experiment 3 is the most appropriate filter for filtering dust and smoke. The smoke particles are filtered well with a weight of 0.2 grams, and dust particles are filtered with a weight of 0.1 grams. Even though experiment 6 filtered the most dust and smoke particles, the smoke alarm was triggered during the testing of experiment 6, which means that the pore size were oversized and smoke is still capable of going through.
So as you can see from the elasticity test results, that it can be seen that the delignification and bleaching variable and the delignification variable produce sufficient filter flexibility, both ranging from 0.25 cm to 0.5 cm. So it can be concluded that the addition of the glycerin to a mixture of cellulose and CMC will decrease the CMC polymer bond, thus making the mask filter become more elastic. So the best variable is the delignification variable with the glycerin addition, which has an elongation of 0.5 cm.
Figure 3, cellulose that use glycerin has a low water absorption than those which do not use glycerin. It can be concluded that with the presence of glycerin, the water absorption power of the mask is reduced, so that the mask filter will not be damaged because too much water is absorbed by the filter. Of all variables using glycerin, the variable delignification with glycerin has the lowest water absorption, which is 160% with an absorption time of 1 hour. Coconut coir has a high enough cellulose content. The cellulose in coconut coir can be used as a mask filter by purifying the cellulose content in the coir and adding it with CMC adhesive so that a thin and tight filter can be generated by the cellulose coir. The cellulose purification process serves to strengthen the bonds of the polymer between CMC and cellulose. To make the filter elastic by stretching the existing polymer bonds, glycerin must be added as a plasticizer. From the overall result obtained, the most suitable formulation for the filter is in experiment 3, which comprises the delignification process, CMC addition, and glycerin addition. The filterability of the dust in experiment 3 is sufficient, but further research is needed to improve the filter power against cigarette smoke and dust. However, in experimentally, further development is still needed to reduce the thickness of the filter and to increase the effectiveness of the filter in filtering smoke.
There are currently 3 future directions that can be done. First is developing the flexibility ratio of the product, second is reducing the thickness of the filter, and third is increasing the effectiveness of the filter. This is done because there are still flaws in the filter's design. Further research are still needed to better refine the filter's design and composition. Thank you for listening and I hope you have a nice day.